And welcome to the Appleby Hour. My name's Appleby, and today I'd like to talk to you about how I break down history into ages, and what I think might be coming around the bend. All right, let's start. This scale is all about humanity, right? We're not talking about prehistory. Well, maybe a little bit. That is where we begin. So let's just get right into it. The first era, the first age, I call the primal. It is that natural state from which you sort of arise and become what we are today. So I'm talking about our sort of maybe not non-tool using. Sure. Non-tool using, non-speaking, non-technological ancestors. When we were just animals and nothing more, right? Now, each of these ages sort of come with a technological revolution and then a communications revolution which follows afterwards. And that's sort of the exception here. That's sort of the exception. We evolve out of the primal, right? And it's all about socialization. And that's a natural process. But it's important to remember that not only were we animals, we are animals. Now, obviously, there's more going on with humanity than the other animals, and nothing exceptional, mind you, except in matter of degree. But let's bring it on to the next age, because that's really when we can start talking about technology and cultural developments. The next age is the archaic. We pick up fire, we learn to speak, we start using stone tools, basic technology. Now, if you don't know my definition of technology, it's tools which improve tools, a recursive improvement of tools. And I think that is the thing that truly makes humanity sort of unique. Now, again, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that something does it to some degree, but obviously it is much lesser than ours. And even if it was to, even if an octopus, for example, was to become technological, then they would just be up here with us. They would be obviously set apart from all the other animals, just like we are. They would have attained this sort of level. So the technological revolution there is, again, it's fire, it's tool use, it's technology. And the pairing communications revolution is language, the invention of language. And I think that language is clearly an invention because there are, you talk about like feral children. Their capacity to understand language is very much diminished if they are not raised up in a culture which acclimates them to language, which plants language inside of them. That's... it's sort of a blessing and a curse. Our brains became so large, thanks in large part to fire, we could pre-digest our food. And so we could afford to run these fancy, expensive, enormous, swollen brains. But the problem was our hips. I mean, not my hips, but female hips. They're wide, but they aren't wide enough. And so you have to come out in sort of a fetal stage. Most animals, they're born, they're running around. Not humans, no. I'm sure you know. It takes quite a few years for a human to reach maturity. And about 25 of them, in fact. I'm coming up, I'm almost done cooking. But the point is there that's the curse, here's the blessing. Neuroplasticity. Our brains are moldable, changeable. They're adaptable. And we can create technologies which interface with that wetware. We can create software, and the wetware will adapt to the software, right? Because these feral people, they're still primals. They're still in that primal era. They're still in that primal age, just like a single person. So we move on to the archaic from the primal. We develop language and technology. That's the basis of everything moving forward. Just as, obviously, you can't have language or technology without complex animal life. And that's the contribution of the primal. Now, I suppose you could go back and say that there's things before the primal, but again, this is sort of pertaining to humanity. The furthest you can go back with humanity is the primal. The archaic leads into the agricultural. Now, this is where it's sort of, my system is meant to interface with another system, of which I'm sure you're familiar. This would be considered the pre-modern era. So what the agricultural revolution, it's right there in the name. The agricultural age, it's all about agriculture. What's the accompanying communications technology? Writing. Once you can write things down, you can pass on your knowledge to future generations. And now, obviously, I don't feel as though I need to really explain how that's benefited us. At least, hopefully I don't. If you feel like you don't get it, like, pause the video and think about it for a second. I'm sure you will. And that allows for that recursive technological improvement to accelerate. You really you hit the gas. And then that pretty quickly leads into, on like a grand time scale, you look at all of human history, all the time we've existed, pretty quickly leads into the industrial age. Our tools are so good that they started moving all on their own. Mechanical muscles, as C.G.P. Gray put it. I'm sure he's not the first to say that. He might have been quoting someone, in fact. Whatever, shouldn't have said that. The accompanying communications technology is electric. Communication over wire, telegram, then phone, and then eventually radio. And that leads into, again, even more quickly, the digital age. So let's go back a step. The agricultural age is pre-modern. The industrial age is modern. And the digital age is postmodern. So these also reflect in the culture. There's large cultural shifts between these, and they become more pronounced as things accelerate. So obviously, before, like, agriculture, pre-modern, it's all about tradition. You know, there's a way things have been done, and they've been done for generations, even though, of course, on the grand scheme of things, agriculture was quite new. In the modern age, we sort of shed tradition. We keep a lot of it, but our technology allows us to explore new modes of living. Things change rapidly, right? The Industrial Revolution is seen as like the biggest sort of shift. And it's obviously, it has the most like aesthetic difference. It feels like the biggest jump. I'm not so certain that it is. And we feel that we have the power to overtake nature, to battle nature, to conquer nature. And, you know, we build towers of steel and glass, just totally stark against the landscapes that they're placed in. It's, I don't know, it's interesting. But it was also kind of a high, right? We just created these amazing new machines, labor-saving devices, and it felt great. But after we came down, we sort of started turning a critical eye to those things. And, you know, postmodernists, they get accused of tearing everything to shreds. And they do, you know. So in the digital age, it's all... The revolution is in computers, and the communications technology is eventually the internet. And yes, the internet has torn things into a billion little pieces, which I think is fine to do. I think of it almost as exploratory. We're trying to find the problem, because we don't understand. Like, we know there's a problem. What's the problem? And nobody can seem to agree. That's what we're looking for, right? So those are the 5 ages, right? Primal, archaic, agricultural, industrial, digital. And that's where we are now. Something else is coming. And I think the term meta-modern fits. Now, I don't have an equivalent term for my system. I think it's too early to name in the way that I've named the primal, the archaic, the agricultural, the industrial, the digital. Those all feel. I'm pretty confident about those names. But what's coming, I think metamodernism captures, but I don't think they're. I can't translate it yet. And one thing I want to talk about, so I talked a little bit about how like a feral person today would still be in the primal age, right? They'd be a primal walking amongst the postmodern. And I think it's crucial to acknowledge that these aren't evenly distributed between people or regions, because Antarctica is still primal, you know. For the most part, there's plenty of little isolated pockets of the Earth which are just too difficult for these naked apes to conquer, and so they remain primal. And there's plenty of, like, I think of the North Sentinelese and some uncontacted Amazonian tribes, although I question how uncontacted they are, if the air quotes didn't make that clear. And they're definitely more in the archaic than most. And then obviously there's still plenty of people who are working land. They're in the agricultural. And there's plenty of people who are still industrial. You know, like I think of West Virginia. You know, they're coal miners. That's not really what we're doing anymore. And it's taken me a long time in my life to realize. But, you know, I thought, I don't know. I've just noticed I'm doing something different. I am something different. And, you know, this is the thing you have to realize about these things. It's not like postmodernists did not create postmodernism. The people who attach the ists and the isms to their names, they are describing what is happening. They're not making it happen. It's a phase shift. It's a shift in mode of being. You know, the culture is like a bacterial culture, and it's as if the colony is suddenly shifted. Priorities are different. A signal's gone out. We need to reorganize in this way, right? But there's always those few who start first. You know, there's a simmer before the boil, right? And that's what I think I am. You know, I'm a molecule of air just before a phase shift. And, you know, a meta-modernist walking amongst the postmoderns. So, I don't know. I don't know exactly what the future holds, but I do know that it involves integration. We need to accept that we are animal, we are tribal, we are, you know, we are gardeners, we are inventors. We are memers, you know? We're all of it. And I feel especially down to the archaic, to the primal, we have lost ourselves. We need to regain our connection to the earth and to nature, because we are part of nature, even if we try to resist it. There is no resisting nature. It's all one big thing. You know, nature is the laws of physics. And unless you can break the laws of physics, I don't want to hear about how cities are unnatural, okay? There's nothing unnatural about a city. It's just as natural as a beehive. And until we recognize that, we're never going to integrate into the natural world the way a beehive can. I don't know exactly how this next step will look, but I'm eager to be a part of it. And I believe that the step afterwards, whatever comes after metamodernism, that's the space age. That's when we're ready to take that step out into the stars, and so we have to nail this. We have to get this. We only get one chance. If we bring war and iniquity with us into space, they'll be with us forever. The choice is clear. Star Trek or Dune. I know which one I prefer. You know, maybe Dune's a little cooler, but Star Trek is obviously the more responsible choice. The better world. I think I've got out what I needed to get out. That's my primal, archaic, agricultural, industrial, digital. And, you know, meta-modern. It's coming up. We'll figure out a name. Hopefully by the time I die. That's the goal, right? God, it would be wonderful if I could live to take that step out into the stars with all of you, in posterity. But if you're watching anytime near my present, please share and like and subscribe and hit the bell and I don't know, do the things. Thank you for watching. I mean it.